On August 20th, 1977, a small spacecraft left Earth with nothing more than a family car on a mission that no one expected to succeed. Its name was Voyager 2, designed to spend some time exploring the outer planets. Short years, it not only exceeded every expectation, it defied them. It traversed worlds, captured history, and drifted quietly into the void. But 45 years later, as Voyager 2 approaches the outer limits, something has changed in the known universe. It sent back a set of images, then it stopped talking. The last. Images left scientists speechless, not only due to what they demonstrate, but because of what they might mean. And now, as a date approaches, a countdown begins. There is no explanation, and a question is gaining momentum like wildfire. Did Voyager define something? Or did something find Voyager? Voyager 2 wasn't built for this. Its cameras, which by today's standards are primitive, hadn't been used since its flyby of Neptune in 1989. They were shut down to conserve power, an overlooked aspect of a dying machine. However, beginning in 2025, engineers at NASA decided to put them through one final test, a brief glimpse of a routine calibration into the void. They powered up the imaging system with its sights set on the stars while we waited. For days. The images were empty. Nothing but dust specks and background light. Then, something appeared. A dim, triangular shadow drifting across a frame's edge. At first, it was ignored, merely a data error, a ray from space. However, the next frame showed the shape again. Only now it had moved, was labeled by JPL analysts as Anomaly X7, and then what happened astonished everyone. As a result of more exposure, Voyager captured a massive object, dozens of miles wide, glowing faintly in the ultraviolet. It did not have a natural form. It had geometry, symmetry, and appeared to be facing Voyager. The final frame received, just a few hours before the camera's permanent darkness, revealed a sudden surge of light followed by static. The camera shut down. Not from power failure or loss. It simply did not come back on. Voyager did not completely perish. Its core systems carried on sending data. But then came another mystery. Just 72 hours after sending its last image, the spaceship moved orientation. With no minuscule stray of 14 eastward rotation, calculated, precise, and deliberate. In all its years of service, Voyager 2 had never changed direction without being informed. But this time, no command was sent. NASA engineers scrambled for explanations. A glitch, a failure of the gyro. But the data showed otherwise. The movement was too smooth, controlled, and when its antenna shifted, it pointed in the opposite direction to Earth, as if in an effort to warn. Computer simulations were run, changes were made to trajectory models, but none could explain why a probe drifting silently through the space between stars would abruptly change. Unless, of course, it noticed something. Although Voyager 2 lacks a microphone. Instruments are present, magnetometers, radiation counters, plasma wave detectors, and soon after its enigmatic twist, those instruments recorded a new record, a low percentage hum that comes back every 17 seconds. At first it was background noise. Then it started to resemble a pattern, a haunting pulse that echoes like a sonar ping over the stars. AI was utilized by NASA specialists to decode the rhythm. Pattern recognition software isolated a binary data stream embedded in zeros and ones in the electromagnetic signal. When translated, it appeared to be a countdown. With each loop, the numbers decreased, closing on July 28, 2025. There is no precedent, no explanation, and no event associated with that day. Just Voyager, drifting 12 billion miles away, sending out a cosmic heartbeat, one that means we are getting closer to something unidentified. The panic started behind closed doors. Internal NASA memos now leaked revealed emergency. Meetings not just with scientists, but with defense analysts, observatories, and government agencies worldwide, due to the fact that this countdown signifies something, and it may already be too late. Some theorize it's just radiation. Others say gravitational lensing. But the timing, the shift in orientation, and all the pictures point to something else, something planned. Several voices in the academic community have begun to whisper the unthinkable. Suppose Voyager 2 captured something that was never intended to be seen? Something ancient, a relic, a machine, a presence. The reality that Voyager ... It sent out a countdown and then went silent, which has brought many to one last frightening possibility, that the inquiry was no longer just drifting. It was being observed, and whatever it observed could be arriving. Images are used in most transmissions from deep space. Degradation is expected. The pixels move. Entropy always prevails when noise creeps in. However, not this time. The final picture before the camera on Voyager 2 died was more than just a light pulse or static. Something else was the case. A still image in distortion, with stark whites, that spill into empty blackness. But inside that chaos, analysts observed an odd persistence. When filtered through various spectrographic layers to degrade, the image was rejected due to grid lines that should have been ruled by randomness. It emerged, faint, mathematical, pulsing at harmonics that are in line with Fibonacci ratios. It was initially dismissed as artifacts of compression. Frequency analysis showed something more coherent, a symmetry that repeated itself over the spatial dimensions. That is to say, the image contained a feedback loop. It contained a reflection of its own structure. Following that, it's the most frightening aspect, when overlaid with the previous trajectory of Voyager 2. The alignment of the final image's framing perfectly matched its change in orientation. As though the picture wasn't just a snapshot of what Voyager saw, but a directive toward what would be its next challenge. The endurance of Voyager 2 is remarkable, but it was never intended to last this long. Its systems run on tech from the 1970s, gold-plated 8-track processors. Circuitry, power expressed in watts rather than kilowatts. However, over the years following the transmission of the countdown, engineers observed an odd pattern. Instruments that had failed decades ago suddenly woke up several at once, but in small amounts. The cosmic ray detector, long dormant, blinked online. The tape recorder, which is actually a magnetic tape unit, briefly spun, logging packets of unprompted data. Telemetry demonstrated that Voyager was not simply alive. It was restructuring. Subsystems launched without a command, the logs changed. Everything was subtle, all of it intentional. However, there is no software installed that accounts for this behavior. The last firmware update took place more than 35 years ago. So, if Voyager is acting intelligently, it's not in our plans. We either underestimated the capacity for adaptation of a machine pushed beyond its limits, or it is being influenced by something else, something external. Most believe intelligence reveals itself through complexity, language, logic, calculation. However, what if the intelligence doesn't speak? What if it echoes? A team at the European Space Agency began looking into Voyager 2's magnetic field readings in search of correlations with known cosmic patterns. What they found was chilling. The low-frequency hum Voyager had recorded during its final imaging run was not noise. It was not random, but rather harmonious, chaotic, but well-organized. When compared against the initial analog broadcasts from Earth, a staggering pattern emerged. The rhythm matched the timing structure of early human radio signatures, inverted. In other words, the hum was a reflection of us, but not a replayther, a mirror in reverse. Some scientists proposed the unthinkable, that the pulse is not an indication of a different culture, but an interaction with something that can comprehend structure rather than language. Something that communicates differently than we do, but something that knows we're listening. The countdown embedded in Voyager's binary pulse converges on one date, July 28, 2025. That date, it's just days away, has triggered debates across the scientific community. Is it a solar or a celestial alignment? A forecast of a flare? A hardware shutdown? But cross-referencing space, weather predictions, planetary positions, and galactic anomalies did not yield any explanation. However, the date is still locked into the rhythm, repeating through each and every one of Voyager's loop transmissions. Several independent labs tried to replicate the anomaly, sending mock signals back toward the spacecraft in hopes of disrupting the countdown. Nothing changed. Now, some believe it's not counting down to an event, but a response follows. When that clock hits 0, something will happen not to the probe, but to us. Possibly, just maybe, it's not a warning, it's an arrival. Voyager 2 was never meant to survive this far. It was never intended to leave the solar system, never meant to reach interstellar space, and certainly never meant to send back a countdown. But it did. And now, with that countdown getting closer to 0, we find ourselves staring at something we never anticipated, not a technical issue or a dying probe, but something alive and meaningful, a warning, a pattern, a signal, or even a reply. Because when you add everything together, the image that will never change, the malfunctioning instruments, the pulse, a turn that no one had ordered, that reflects our inverse, gives you the sense that Voyager wasn't done here. Yet, it was its first contact. And maybe, just maybe, the moment we decided to turn the cameras back on, we opened a door we were unaware of. A door not to a different planet, but to something far older, far colder, and far more aware than us. And now that we've seen it, after hearing its rhythm, its structure, its goal, and the knowledge that we're watching, perhaps that was the purpose all along. Not only did Voyager 2 show us the universe's outermost limit, it might have given us a glimpse of the real world. If this story even slightly moved you, submit by pressing the notification bell and share this video with someone who continues to believe that the universe is empty. And let us know in the comments what you think. Did Voyager 2 make a discovery artificial, or something that dates back and has always been there? Because no matter what a countdown, a message, or the universe's way of reflecting us back at ourselves, we are no longer out there on our own. Something has been spotted. And now we are also being watched by something.